Good morning, everybody. Welcome to another fantastic episode of one of the worst sports podcasts out there. This Raven Slayer, well, yeah, Raven Slayer's hour. I'm sorry, kind of early this morning. Didn't sleep well last night, but done tons of research as per popular request. We are discussing some predictions for for the NFC as per the title of this live. Um, so we're discussing the predictions for the NFC West, the NFC South, as well as the NFC East. We'll be also talking about some good fantasy picks and some bad fantasy picks for any of you fantasy football fans out there looking to get a little bit of an edge. So without further ado,
very true.
Alrighty, good afternoon, gentlemen.
Good afternoon. We have a guest star.
Well, good morning. All right.
Well, it's afternoon for him, so that counts.
Yeah. All right. So
you're here.
Yeah. So as I was talking to everybody, let them know what's going on. We're talking about the NFC West, the NFC South, and the wonderful NFC East over there with Mr. Mike.
We knew he wouldn't want to miss this one.
Oh, definitely not. And I hope he's not going to look at me any differently when I trash the Cowboys this time.
Sir, get it right. Cal pukes.
Sorry, Cal pukes.
Be interesting to see how different people are on predictions.
Yeah, it'll be fun.
So we're gonna start.
Where do you want to start, Raven?
We're gonna start things out in the West with the Cardinals, Niners, Seahawks, and the Rams. So you start out here, Dad. Kind of see how your predictions kind of came out for the West as far as the standings first and foremost.
Well, let's go a team at a time, and we can kind of go around the horn and get everybody's picks. For me, this is a two-team division this year, and we'll start with our Cardinals, Arizona Cardinals. My bad. I've got them. I've got them at 10-7 this year, and honestly, this is going to come down to the last game of the season, whether they win the division or lose the division. The team really has to figure out a way to get over their inability to win in the second half of a season. They always seem to get off to quick starts, and then they fall apart. Can they stay healthy? Can Kyler Murray keep from getting injured? They look a lot better with Jacoby Brissett as a backup than they have in the past. But really, it's going to come down to whether or not they can beat the Rams. For me, the fantasy hit this year, and it's not really that big a surprise if you play fantasy at all or you've been following the NFL. Trey McBride. He's a name that a lot of people don't know unless you play fantasy. He is extremely undervalued. Secret's finally out. He's currently the second highest drafted tight end in most leagues, most scoring, most different scoring setups. He is a favorite of Kyler Murray, and this offense is built around quick dump-offs, quick passes, and so he's going to get a lot of touches. He had 111 receptions last year, but only 2 touchdowns. So if he can expand on those touchdowns and the red zone opportunities, there's nothing but upside for him. The fantasy bust that I picked this year, I've got James Conner. You know exactly what you're getting with James Conner. Back-to-back 1,000-yard seasons, another 9 touchdowns this past year. But there is a number that everybody needs to be aware of with James Conner, and that number is 30. We all know what happens to running backs when they get to 30 years old. I just don't think he's going to see the same production this year. On top of that, Trey Benson is a good-looking rookie. I actually expect him to steal some carries this year from James, and I think that's going to hurt his production overall. Okay. What do you think, Raven?
Definitely interesting views here. So I had the same prediction as you did as far as the Cardinals finishing off at the 10-7. The Cardinals have made huge improvements with their defensive improvements this year. Uh, Stealing Josh Sweat in the offseason, Calais Campbell, bringing in Davlin Tomlinson. Definitely huge question marks I had, and one huge concern I had was with Kyler Murray's ability to find his young receiver in Marvin Harrison Jr. If he can target Harrison more consistently and improve with improve Harrison from the season prior, the Cardinals are going to run away with this division 100%. I have them about in the same category as one other team in here. And that's the Niners, but Cardinals I definitely have winning the division at 10-7.
What do you got, Mike?
Well, I'm not an Arizona homer anymore, so we are very different. I guess I always look at Arizona as you got to prove it to me. I'll never believe in him. Kyler Murray, I have him at 7-10, and I went game by game by game. I have them at 7-10. I do agree, Trey McBride with the fantasy. I think he is probably the second or third best tight end that you can take. I would also avoid any running back on the Arizona Cardinals. I do. I mean, from a fantasy standpoint, I do like Kyler Murray. I mean, he is a good fantasy quarterback. I think he's a fringe top quarterback one. I think he's top 10 for fantasy just because of his running ability that he has. But I just don't see the talent. I don't see what you guys are seeing. I'm not out there in Arizona. I don't get to hear about it all day, every day anymore. So I have them at 7-10 and in dead last in this division.
That is brave to say, and
Dead
thank you very
last.
much.
Wow.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Wow.
Thank you, Sean, for of course confirming audio is sounding great for all three of us, gentlemen.
Yes.
So going back to the fantasy, because I completely forgot, completely skipped over it. As far as my good fantasy pick for this year, I mean, again, young receiver, so long as he can get more consistent catches, Marvin Harrison Jr. is my good fantasy pick this year. As far as my bad fantasy pick, I definitely do agree with Mike here with the running back committee, but I lean more towards staying away from Trey Benson. James Conner definitely is getting up there in age, but at the same time, there are some other running backs in the Cardinals organization that can definitely step up, especially with their running back from their rookie from the year prior, potentially getting some more touches and some more carries. Hold on, let me find his name. I had it written down
Trey
somewhere.
Benson was the rookie last year.
Oh, was he? Hold on.
I got you back.
Could have sworn he was a rookie this year.
No, Trey Benson was the rookie last year.
Oh, I thought it was Michael Carter. And whatever. What have you.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, again, Trey Benson really wasn't consistent last year. It all depends on what he's going to do this next upcoming year. If he's going to break out into that new running back number one, or if he's just going to fall back into running back 2 or running back 3 situations. So I'm not 100% sold on Trey Benson.
Got it. All right. Well, since you went second, we'll let you go first. Why don't you talk about the Los Angeles Rams?
Oh, the Rams. Well, number one concern I have with the Rams is Matthew Stafford. Stafford's getting up there in age, and of course, as many people say, with age comes more experience. But at the same time, with Stafford, I don't know how much longer he has. I don't know if this is going to be the season that he's going to hang him up after the season. I actually have it flipped from what Mike said: 7-10 for the Rams, dead last in the division. Even though they have that new addition with Devontae Adams, we don't know if he's going to become that new top target for him. Then that the defensive line, it's young and it's undersized. And on top of it, I mean, last season they ranked 23rd in run defense. So with that undersized defensive line, again, I'm torn. if they're going to improve on defense or if they're going to be the same as last year.
All right. Who's your fantasy hit?
Or my fantasy hit, as always, George Kittle. My apologies, Kyron Williams. He's a great young running back. He has a ceiling he can burst through this year too. But Kyron Williams, 100%, my good fantasy pick. As far as my bad fantasy pick, like I was mentioning prior, with the age, Matthew Stafford is my quarterback I want to stay away from.
How about you, Mike? Where do you got him?
All right. Well, we are definitely very, very different in predictions here. So, I have the Rams winning this division. I have them at 11-6. You got Sean McVay. I think Stafford, as long as his back can stay healthy. You got Puka Nacua, you got Devontae Adams, you got that offensive line, you got Kyron Williams, who I agree 100% with Daryl. That is my fantasy hit. I think Kyron Williams will probably get 400 touches this year. I think he's a beast when it comes to fantasy football. But I think the Rams are the clear cut. I think they're going to win this division for sure. As far as the miss, I would kind of avoid. I would probably avoid. I know it's gonna sound weird, but I'd avoid Devontae Adams. I just don't know how much he's gonna get there in St. Louis. I apologize, my kids asking for more time on an iPad. So,
They're in Los Angeles now, by the way.
Oh yeah, sorry. Yeah, I just don't know where you guys are seeing this difference, Cardinals and Rams. I don't see how Rams are 7-10 and Cardinals are 10-7. This division, I will say, is very, very tight. I could see anyone winning it, but I think the Rams, with their head coach, have the advantage here for me.
So it's funny you say that too, because Mike, you and I were dead on. I've got the Rams at 11-6. I've got them winning the division. I think, at least for me, Matthew Stafford has yet to show me anything that tells me that you can't count on him. He's actually one of my favorite quarterbacks in the NFL right now. What that guy does is just unbelievable to me. He's Mr. Consistency. You know what you get when you draft Matthew Stafford. You got to remember, these guys were one drive short of the Super Bowl last year. One drive short of the Super Bowl. We've got a whole new look to this offense. Cooper Kupp being gone is, I think a lot of people are having a hard time swallowing that pill. We are all three on the same page when it comes to Kyron Williams. It was great to see him get the extension this past week, and just the way that he talks about how they've shown faith in him and he's going to give them everything. Man, how is he the 12th overall running back taken right now? Behind Devon Achane from Miami, behind Ashton Genty, who hasn't done a thing in the NFL. I've got more rushing yards at this point in the NFL than Ashton Genty does. And I don't get how he can be 7 picks later right now than CMC in average draft position at running back. 1,300 rushing yards last year, 16 overall touchdowns. Honestly, he might top 20 overall touchdowns this year. They're going to lean on him with Stafford's age getting up there and the different look to the offense. He will probably be the feature the first half of this season as they work in Devontae Adams to this offense. As far as a fantasy bust, and I know somebody's going to think I'm nuts when I say this. I think Puka Nacua is your bust this year.
What?
Okay, hear me out. First of all, is he really a number one receiver in the NFL? He's played 2 seasons, got hurt, missed 6 games last year. He's being drafted 5th overall at receiver in almost every draft. And all of that for a guy who boasts a total of 9 touchdowns in the last 2 years and lives in an offense that doesn't feature a singular star. Like, what are people seeing that I'm just not? Now,
I don't think he if you draft him as a 5th overall receiver, yeah, I think he's a bust at that point. But if you can get him at the right spot, I mean, he's gonna put up numbers. I just don't know if he's gonna put up top 5 numbers.
I don't even know that he puts up WR1 numbers, is what I'm saying. Like,
Oof.
yes, he's a sexy pick. He is. Ooh, look at this guy. But what has he done to earn that yet? Nothing. And now I get it. Cooper Kupp is gone, so people are thinking, okay, well, he's going to get a whole lot more touches, a whole lot more touchdowns, a whole lot more catches. He's Cooper Kupp 2.0. Like, he's the same guy. So I don't think he will live up to his draft bill. I don't think he will be better than a wide receiver 2. I don't think the numbers are going to justify what people are spending in order to get there. So there's my fantasy bust. We'll see if it plays out that way.
Well, Sean just mentioned in chat, it's making both him and I think back to what a good friend of ours, Jeff Goldblum, wound up saying. You got to throw it to Puka. Got to throw it to him.
Yeah, we'll see. I just think that this offense is built around spreading the ball out. And I don't think that you're going to get the kind of numbers you're going to get from, Justin Jefferson. Even T. Higgins as a wide receiver 2 might have better numbers than Puka's going to have in this offense. So, all right. Mike, you're going to be up first with the San Francisco 49ers.
Let me go. Give me a second. You start with them. I'm helping kids out here.
Oh, all right. Fair enough. All right, San Francisco 49ers. Before we throw the record out there, I'm just going to say this is going to be the test for Kyle Shanahan. Kyle Shanahan, I think, is one of the best coaches in the NFL, and he somehow gets more out of guys than other coaches would. The fact that he's got Mr. Irrelevant at quarterback should tell you everything. The scary thing is, if he doesn't produce a winning record this year, he could be the coach on the hot seat by the end of the year. Their defense got decimated in the offseason. Multiple stars now gone. Deebo Samuel gone. New faces all the way across this roster. And yet somehow Kyle Shanahan is going to get them to a 9-8 record this year.
Wow.
Now, one thing that I will give the 49ers is they find a way to rebuild through the draft every freaking year. John Lynch is one of the best GMs I've seen in football. I love what John Lynch does year in and year out. He finds absolute studs on the defensive side of the ball. They've developed their talent on the offensive side of the ball. The biggest headaches they've got right now, Jawan Jennings, I want to trade so I can get more money. Come on. For me, my fantasy hit this year, and he's not relatively unknown, but of the 3 receivers in that locker room, this guy has got the biggest upside, Ricky Pearsall. And I am not saying that just because he is ASU loyalty or royalty. He got shot. He got shot last year before the season even started. So what did he do? Well, broke into the starting lineup, 400 receiving yards, 3 touchdowns, big play explosiveness. Like, this guy can play in this league. And right now, he is the 46th wide receiver coming off the boards. 46th overall in an offense where he realistically could become the wide receiver 2. So I really think he's going to way outperform his average draft position. I think he's going to be a reliable wide receiver 3 to start the season. I think he's got the potential to move into wide receiver 2 position as the year plays on. As far as fantasy bust, anyone who drafted this guy first overall last year understands what I'm about to say. Christian McCaffrey should not be drafted in the first round of this draft. Shouldn't be. This guy is the definition of high risk, high reward. You could get 2,000 yards combined. You could get 20 touchdowns combined. Or you could get a guy who misses 13 games this year, and we realize that he's done. If you want to swing for the fences and you want to take him as the third or fourth back off the board, be my guest. Me personally, I will not touch him as a running back one unless it's one of the last two running back ones to come off the board. I'm just tired of the Arnold Schwarzenegger. I'll be back. I mean, come on, guy's injury history has to scare everyone. I personally recommend staying away from CMC.
All right.
Raven, where you at? What do you
So
got?
here's kind of where I'm sitting with the Niners. As everyone's well aware, they're a boomer bust team when it comes to injury or being able to stay healthy. This is a team that I did have tied with the Cardinals if they can stay healthy at a 10-7 record. However, if injuries derail their season, 8-9. Without a doubt in my mind, 8-9. Sure, you just lost Debo in the offseason. The huge question, number one, can Ayuk come back and become fully healthy and be able to take the mantle as the number one receiver in this offense? They also lost a ton of defensive talent this offseason with Dre Greenlaw, Javarius Ward, Javon Hargrave. Another huge question mark is Brock Purdy. Just got the huge contract extension. That's a lot of money for the Niners being tied up right now. So worst case, if there is an injury that happens, they can't go to the free agency pool and try and pull somebody up off of free agency to make up for those injuries. The other concern I have, of course, as you mentioned, is Christian McCaffrey's health and Brandon Ayuk's health. Ayuk still on injury right now, trying to recover from his ACL injury at the end of the year. Christian McCaffrey, as everyone is well aware, missed 13 games last season. We don't know if that's going to be the same issue this year. Who knows? But as far as my fantasy picks go, George Kittle, as I was about to mention earlier, George Kittle is my number one guy off the board if I'm picking a tight end. And as far as my bad fantasy pick, as I was mentioning with the injury right now, Brandon Ayuk.
Well, listen, Mike, where you at?
I'm kind of right in with you guys. I agree with Daryl. I have the Niners right here at 10-7. Something about Shanahan. He just always wins, just like you said. He finds a way. I know they lost a lot on defense. But I have them coming in at 10-7, second place. I do have them missing the playoffs. I only have one team from this division making the playoffs, and that was the Rams. As far as fantasy goes, I 100% agree with Daryl. I think George Kittle is the second best tight end in fantasy football. So he is, I think, probably the only player I would draft, except I'm very different with you. I was not I've never missed on Christian McCaffrey. And I guess I'm getting sucked into if I can get him in the second round on the comeback or early second round, mid second round, I'm going to draft the dude. Like the upside is too big. High risk, high reward, but it's fantasy and we're gambling anyway, so we might as well gamble, right? So I do agree with Daryl as far as Ayuk goes. I've never liked Niners wide receivers. They're not a throw first team, they're a run first team. Even when Debo was there, he never put up massive fantasy numbers. They're a good team, but they're not a great fantasy. I guess their fantasy outlook is not great for the Niners.
And to be clear on CMC, when I say that I consider him a fantasy bust, I am looking at average draft position right now. People drafting him as the third or fourth running back coming off the board. To me, it's reckless. If I'm drafting, in the top five, one of the top five running backs, I want to know what I'm getting. I want to know that it's a guy that I can count on to be, running back one, because running back ones don't get traded in fantasy. They just don't.
No.
If I can get him as an RB2 and that's the gamble I'm taking, yeah, I agree with you, because then it's a lot harder to label a guy a bust if he gets injured or just doesn't produce. But for me, when it comes to CMC, man, if you're going to draft him RB1, and especially one of those top five, you better know
You
where
better
you're
have a
getting.
deep running back. Lots of running
Yep,
backs on that roster.
yep. So, all right, that leaves us with Seattle. Mike, you haven't started us off yet, so we'll let you start off Seattle.
All right, Sea Chickens. I got them. I'm going back and forth, 8-9, 9-8. I have them just a game ahead of the Cardinals. Like I said, this division's very tight. I could see any of the four winning it. I could see any of the four coming in last too. Um, Darnold's my question. You know, can he look like he did in the first 14 games last year without Kevin O'Connell? Or is he going to look like Sam Darnold that we saw in the playoffs in the last couple weeks of the season? Sam Darnold's still Sam Darnold. We all remember the Jets, what he looked like on the Jets. So which Sam Darnold are we going to get? That's my biggest concern with them. I do like the wide receiver room. I think adding Cooper Kupp was I think they overpaid for him, but I think that veteran leadership, pairing him with Jackson Smith, well, however you say it, JSN. Um, I think that I like their wide receiver room. My fantasy hit with the biggest upside, I think it's Kenneth Walker. I think you can get him in a mid round, seventh, eighth round is where he's going, is what I'm seeing. I think he's got a lot of very high upside. Um, I could see him putting up RB1 stats if he can stay healthy. His problem's always been health. So I think if you can get him in the seventh, sixth, seventh, eighth round, take a swing for him. I think that's my favorite player on this team from a fantasy outlook. And Sam Darnold, I'd avoid him with a 10-foot pole. I would not draft him as my quarterback. I would not draft him as my backup quarterback. I just don't trust him without Kevin O'Connell. Kevin O'Connell makes everybody good.
What do you think, Raven?
Definitely some agreement there as far as the quarterback situation. Brand new quarterback, brand new receiver in town with Darnold and Cooper Kupp coming in. But yeah, definitely agree with the Darnold. I mean, with the Darnold, assessment. Is he going to live up to the hype that everyone's hyping him up to be, or is he just a system quarterback? And as well on top of it, Cooper Kupp coming into town. I mean, his health was a concern last year. The one concern I have is he going to be able to stay? Is he able to stay consistently healthy this next year? Overall, I had them down as a 7-10 team, finishing off third in the division.
It's scary. It's scary how parallel we are on the overall strength of this division. I had them at 6-11.
Wow.
And basically what I said is a whole new era in Seattle. I mean, new coach, new quarterback, a whole makeover on both offense and defense. And the key here is somebody has to finish last in this division. For me, it's the Seahawks, just because of the fact that we're looking at a whole new roster, whole new team, whole new setup. We are all in agreement when it comes to their quarterback situation. In fact, Sam Darnold is currently the 29th overall quarterback getting drafted, right behind a fifth round draft pick from this year. Shedeur Sanders has more fans and people have more faith in him than they do in drafting Sam Darnold. So it's hard to call a guy a bust when there's such low expectations. He's got the potential to be the fantasy hit. He's got the potential to be a fantasy bust. I just don't think he has the tools around him this year to succeed. For me, when I look at it and I say, who's my fantasy hit? I think it's going to be JSN. This team is going to have to throw the ball because I think they're going to be behind in games. Cooper Cup's going to draw a lot of the attention, and that should free up JSN down the field more. And the one thing that Sam Darnold can do is throw the ball down the field. So if that offensive line can give him some time, I think JSN stands to benefit the most. So that's my take on Seattle.
No, I definitely agree with you as far as the fantasy hit. I had down JSN as my fantasy hit, with Cooper Cup actually being my fantasy bust this year. Because as you're aware, he's going to have Cooper Cup's going to have a lot more attention. A lot of people are going to realize in this offense that hey, he was the guy who got a triple crown a couple years ago, and was an MVP favorite. So we're going to pay more attention to this kid than JSN. So Jason definitely is going to benefit a lot more in this offense than Cooper Cup.
All right. What division do you want to attack next?
We're going to jump on into the NFC South next. I'm going to save the fun one for last.
Yeah. We'll save Mike's favorite one.
Yeah.
All right. Why don't you start us off, Daryl, about Atlanta?
So as far as Atlanta, I definitely have a huge question mark with them. Number one, Atlanta, they have an insane quarterback situation right now. You got might want to turn your camera off there, Mike. Oh my Lord.
I was watching it going, yeah, somebody should say something. You won't be able to. And I was like,
oh my God.
All right. So going back to
anyway,
Atlanta.
going back to Atlanta. Definitely have a huge question mark at quarterback right now. First and foremost, Kirk Cousins, riding the pine right now, one of the most expensive backup quarterbacks. And the huge concern with Kirk right now. Number one, you trade the guy, you're having a dead money hit of $38 million. But right now, no one's really looking to take on his remaining contract for a glorified backup quarterback. And number two, I mean, cutting him cost you $65 million in a dead money hit, which as well, like I mentioned prior, results in the Falcons having too much money tied up in this old quarterback, preventing you from picking up free agency players throughout the year, for injuries and such. This is the first full year you're getting from Michael Penix, who he has limited time as a starter last year, and his limited time as a starter was very rocky. Of course, big additions in the offseason this past year with Jelon Walker, James Pierce Jr. on the defensive side of the ball. But on top of it as well, the defense is still a huge work in progress. I have the Falcons coming down to a 7-10 record down the stretch. And as far as a good fantasy pick, as everybody knows, good ones, Michael Penix. His upside is there. His downside is there. I wasn't 100% sold on, getting a quarterback this early. But, I mean, Michael Penix, if you have to choose one, you got to go with Michael Penix. And the worst one in this case is Kirk Cousins. He's going to ride the pine probably until about, the trade deadline. Worst case, if Penix goes down with an injury, you plug in Kirk Cousins. Or if there's another team that a quarterback goes down, you need a good serviceable quarterback. Indianapolis. Anywho, you need a good quarterback. Hey, Kirk Cousins sitting there riding the pine right now, so you trade for him. But again, I don't believe he's going to get traded until about midway through the season when we have that trade deadline.
What are your thoughts, Mike?
Ooh. You know what I love about the NFL preseason? is one of us is going to be correct and one of us is going to be dead wrong. I love the Falcons team. I don't know why I love them. I have them winning this division. Um, this division's similar to the West. I think it's a 2-team division, not a 4-team division. Um, but I think the Falcons finally get over the hump. I think I have them at 11-6, winning this division. I like Michael Penix Jr. I watched him beat Texas. I watched him last year. Throws a great deep ball as long as he can stay healthy. Uh, Obviously, I love Bijan. I do think Bijan's getting drafted a little too high. I don't think I could grab him at the number 2 spot or number 3 spot. But if he slid to me at 5 or 6 or 7, if I'm down there in the mid first round, I could draft him. My fantasy hit, I'm gonna probably take some shit for it, but I'm going with Kyle Pitts. At some point, this guy he's got to live up to the potential that he had in his first year. Doing it with basically a rookie quarterback this year, Michael Penix. I think he's going to be his safety outlet or whatever you want to call it. So I got Kyle Pitts as my fantasy hit on this team. As far as the I don't want to call him a bust, but who I'd avoid, Drake London. I'm just not a big fan of Drake London. I think he's getting drafted a little too high. What I saw was like he was 8th, 9th, 10th, getting wide receiver getting drafted. So I think I could find a different receiver because I do think this is going to be a run first offense. I think they're going to feed Bijan. I think Bijan's going to have 1,400, 1,500 yards and probably another 500 yards catching the ball. Probably 60 catches. So, but yeah, 11-6. This is my team to beat in the South.
So one thing that I agree with something you just said there. This division is very much like the NFL or NFC West, where any team could win it, any team could lose it. Maybe not all 4. Definitely not all 4, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But there are definite question marks about who's going to walk away with this. For me, I came down to 7-10 for the Falcons. The biggest factor that I saw, number one, is the schedule to open the season is ridiculous. They've got 4 playoff teams from 2024 in the first 5 weeks. You've got Kirk Cousins on the bench eating up $38 million in salary cap. Now, when you've got Michael Penix as your starter, that may not be the worst thing, only because we don't know truly what we've got in Michael Penix yet. Similar to J.J. McCarthy in Minnesota. There's all this hype, all this potential, but what's going to be delivered on the field could be different, especially considering the teams that they're starting the year against. Success breeds this ability to overcome what may be minor imperfections in your game. But failures can destroy a quarterback very, very quickly. And with that lineup that they're going to face those first 5 weeks, Penix could fail and lose any confidence that he's built both in himself and in his team. And then you're going to have people chirping, well, what about Kirk Cousins? We want Kirk, I think that kind of noise could be the downfall for this team this year and why I have them at 7-10. As far as the fantasy hit, this is what cracks me up is how aligned we are. Kyle Pitts is going to be my fantasy hit. I really think this guy has the potential to score 10 touchdowns this year. I think he could possibly be a top 3 tight end in the NFL this year. It'll come down to quarterback play for him. Will Michael Penix use him as his outlet? If Michael Penix isn't there, Kirk Cousins loves throwing to tight ends, and then Kyle Pitts is that much more valuable. And I'm prepared to be chastised for this, but that's okay. My fantasy bust is Bijan Robinson. And this is really only in relation, hold on. This is really only in relation to where he's being drafted, an average 10 to 12 team drafts. when you talk about a guy being taken first overall, I get it, man. I am a Bijan fan. That guy can do almost anything. And I know that, part of why you chose him is that orange shirt you have on right now. Um, Bijan could be a stud, or he could be very mediocre, considering if I'm looking at how to beat the Falcons, it's stop Bijan and make Michael Penix prove it to me. So for me, I just don't know that he's going to grow on last season's numbers. 1,450 rushing yards last year, 15 total
Rushing
touchdowns.
yards.
Yeah, yards. There you go, sir. I just don't know that he's going to grow on those numbers. Um, at least not this year. I love him. I really do. And I'm with you, Mike. If I can take him in the middle of the first round as, the fifth or sixth running back off the board, there's 100% value right there. He will be an RB1. I just don't know that he's worth being drafted ahead of other running backs right now. So that's my take on Atlanta. That brings us to Carolina.
Oh boy.
I'll start this one off. I like talking about this team. Before
Why?
we get to the record, this is going to come down to one thing, and that is, can Bryce Young look like the Bryce Young we saw the second half of last year? I feel like it finally started to click for him. They found ways to use him the way he really needs to be used. That offense is really built around the run. Um, if Bryce Young can continue to emerge and that offensive line can continue to protect and they can continue to run the ball because their defense is keeping them in games, I've got Carolina at 8-9. I think they've added enough this offseason to make me a little bit of a believer. They're not going to win this division, but they're going to make steps. They're going to take steps. They're going to make strides, and they're going to continue to improve. Big question marks for this team is Tatoria McMillan. Is he a legit wide receiver one for this offense? Is he the big downfield threat they need to complement Xavier Legette and Adam Thielen? Adam Thielen, man, I miss that guy in Minnesota, but he is not the same receiver anymore. He is like watching Wes Welker at the end of his career, where you go, great 4-yard route, good job. For me, my fantasy hit, Chuba Hubbard. He's commonly being drafted as an RB2. He averaged almost 5 yards a game. He had 10 touchdowns last year. Like, there's nothing that suggests that these numbers are going to go down. If anything, I expect them to go up slightly as they try to focus on running the ball. On top of that, Jonathan Brooks is out for the year. He's rehabbing from his torn ACL. So Chuba Hubbard stands to gain on the number of touches and number of carries he had last year. So look for Chuba Hubbard to be a steal, per se, when we talk about being able to draft him as an RB2. My fantasy bust is going to be Tatoria McMillan. I think far too often, and we'll use Marvin Harrison Jr. as a great example of this, we expect way too much out of a rookie wide receiver drafted in the first round of the NFL. I for one expected Marvin Harrison to put up numbers like his dad last year, and then I was like, what was I thinking? McMillan is going to fall into that same trap, I think. Again, we're in an offense that's going to try and focus on the run, going to try and control the ball, and yeah, McMillan's going to have some nice plays. McMillan's going to have some touchdowns. 5 to 6 is kind of the max that I expect out of him, but this guy's being drafted right now. Average draft position of 28th at wide receiver, late 4th round, early 5th round overall. He's being drafted ahead of Travis Hunter, Jordan Addison, Deebo Samuel, 10 full positions ahead of Chris Godwin. And unfortunately, Chris Godwin may not start the season on the field. But all these guys potentially should outperform him. So for me, Tatoria McMillan is your bust. Chuba Hubbard, your hit.
Man, we went
What do you
alternate
think?
there. Holy.
What's that?
We kind of went opposite there as far as the fantasy, as far as the fantasy guys. So we'll let Mike go
Okay.
ahead and start. We'll go ahead and get into me as far as predictions and stuff because I have a lot to say about Carolina as well.
All right.
I don't have a lot to say about Carolina. I have them at 6-11. I do think they're a couple, a year or two away from being relevant again. I agree with you. It all comes down to Bryce Young. If Bryce Young plays like he did in the second half of the year, I could see him, maybe getting 7 or 8 wins. They're just a very young team. There's not a lot of talent that goes around this team. As far as my fantasy hit, I actually had two here. I did have Chuba Hubbard. I think you covered him pretty well, so I won't say that. And you can call me Homer, but my other one is Jatavian Sanders, the tight end. He is starting. He is the starting tight end there. Um, I guess I was fortunate enough to watch him, for the last 2 years. Every single game. The guy's got great hands. He runs a great route. I think he's going to put up some good numbers. I think Bryce Young's going to rely on his tight end a little bit more as a safety outlet. And I also have McMillan as my bust. I don't like. I think you summed it up right. I think he's a Marvin Harrison. I think he's going to have the expectations are very high. And let's be honest, he played for U of A. Like he didn't really play anyone. He's never played any real talent. So how good is he really? That's kind of my question when it comes to him. But 6-11, that's where I have the Panthers at.
That's you, Raven.
All right. So as far as Carolina, I definitely would alternate with kind of your guys' record. I have the Panthers finishing number 2 this year, 9-8 record. They're looking to rebound after a really rough season last year. They have that new addition on offense that I think actually will be very successful in Ted McMillan. He can slot in the number 2 receiver, number 3 receiver. He could be a very good slot receiver in their offense. They have great new additions on defense with Nick Scorton and Trevon Morg. I don't know how to pronounce the last name. And something that Adam Thielen brought up is that the players on that team are tired of the losing ways. Bryce Young, he had a great second half his great second half of his year last year. He's looking to build on that second half success. One thing that I did take down that hurt them the most is losing Shaq Thompson over this offseason. That's going to be a huge hit on them. They're now looking for a new defensive captain. However, I think the Panthers are going to come out and break out this year. Become that new team. Become that team that breaks out into the new and improved Panthers this year. 9-8 record for the Panthers. I actually disagree with you guys on the fantasy pick. My go-to fantasy pick this year, Ted McMillan. He's a young guy. He's going to be a guy that doesn't get a whole lot of looks because of Xavier Legette. But Ted McMillan definitely is going to be a great number 2, number 3 receiver. He's most likely going to end off with the second most amount of yards on this offense because, as Dad mentioned, Adam Thielen gets like those short little 4-yard catches. Xavier Legette is more of your guy that can run down the field, catch one in space, run it in for a touchdown. But Ted McMillan, he could break into that guy who can get those other short routes as well, short little 5-yard catches, but break it out for a huge gain. He could be one of your guys that goes on a slant route and you got yourself 15, 16 yards. I have Ted McMillan as my good fantasy pick this year. My bad one, and I'm sorry to say it, Dad, because I know you miss him a lot, but Adam Thielen getting up there in age, possibly his last year this year. So I have him as my fantasy bust this year.
And I would have said Adam Thielen, but it's hard to label a guy a bust when nobody is even going to either A, draft him at all, or B, if he does get drafted, he's going to be a bench guy. So I have zero expectation out of Adam Thielen in this offense. I think the one guy offensively that stands to benefit the most is Xavier Legette, with the addition of Ted McMillan. Um, he's going to no longer be double teamed the way he was last year. I love his upside this year. So watch for that as well. All right. See who went first last time. That was Mike or me, Daryl. You get New Orleans.
How when the Saints go marching in to the factory of sadness this year. New Orleans Saints, far too many concerns right now. You got a new quarterback running the offense with Derek Carr retiring in the offseason. As they mentioned, Tyler Show is most likely going to be the quarterback taking the reins in this next season. They also have a new head coach in charge. I don't know how that head coach is going to do this next year. One concern I definitely had was Chris Olave's health. Chris Olave has not been healthy, and if he's not healthy, you got limited depth at wide receivers. So if you got a young quarterback, you ain't got nobody to throw to really in this offense. So as far as the Saints, and I know all the New Orleans Saints fans who are potentially going to watch this later on, I have the Saints going 4-13, dead last in this division.
What do you think, Mike?
Well, I think we agree on one thing. The Saints are horrible. They're the worst team in football, in my opinion. I'll just get out of the way. I have them at 2-15.
Wow.
I think they are the number one pick next year. I think they have nothing. That team is just I don't know what Mickey Loomis is doing. I don't know why Kellen Moore accepted that job. I hope to God they told him, we promise you 5 years no matter what, because no one can win with that team. I don't care if you're Bill Belichick. They're bad. I looked for a while to try to find something like positive to say about this team. There's not a lot. I mean, Spencer Rattler probably is going to be the starter at the beginning of the year. At some point, he's going to get hurt, or they're going to move on to the Louisville kid. The only upside I see from a fantasy perspective, I say this I would never draft a Saint. But if you have to, I would go with Rashid Shaheed, the wide receiver. Kellen Moore somehow gets, they're going to throw. They're going to be down in every single game. So they're going to be throwing the ball. Brandon Cooks, I don't like. I think he's old. So I guess if I had to pick one, I would pick Shaheed or however you say his name. As far as a bust, I think Alvin Kamara is a bust. He has nobody to block for him. I mean, I love Kelvin Banks Jr. At left tackle, but he's a rookie, and he's the best lineman on that team. So defense is horrible. Offense is horrible. They might go 0-17 for God's sakes. Like I had to try to get them to a two-win season. So yeah, they're bad. I agree with you, Daryl, 100%.
Now, that brings me also to my point, and I apologize. I completely forgot about fantasy because, of course, the Saints are are going to be forgettable this year. I 100% agree. Do not touch any Saints players. However, if you have to, if you're in one of those weird leagues where you're required to at least have one player on your team from each teams, the defense is serviceable, I think. Maybe. I don't know. But yeah, I mean, if you have to pick the defense, have him on your bench for all I care. Alvin Kamara.
Pick the kicker. I don't even know who their kicker is. Pick your kicker.
And pick the kicker. Absolutely. But definitely agree with you as far as a bad fantasy pick, Alvin Kamara. One thing that you mentioned earlier on in the show here, Dad, the big number 30. Alvin Kamara is not the same running back as he was back then. So
we're all in alignment, guys. The Arch Manning race is on, and the real interesting thing.
No.
Stop it!
No.
Stop it!
It's the Garrett Nussmeier race. Arch is coming back, baby.
I was just you cut me off before I could say it.
You're talking all kinds of mess over there. Don't be talking about Arch.
it would be really, really interesting to see what would happen if New Orleans is the team with the number one pick, and Arch Manning does show the potential that everybody expects him to show,
Archie,
and
by the
he
way.
is projected to be the number. Sorry, Archie. Um, and he does look like the kid that everybody thinks he is. If he has the chance to go to his grandfather's team,
Let me throw
would
a
he
caveat in there.
return? Yep,
Let me throw
yep,
a caveat in there for you.
yep.
The offensive coordinator for the New Orleans Saints is the LSU quarterback. Garrett Nussmeier is his dad.
Yep.
If Arch and Nussmeier both declare and they're going to go 1-2, who do the Saints take? Do they take Nussmeier and his son, or do they take
The
Arch
get it.
Manning 2.0?
I get it.
Also, Arch
I get
Manning will not leave Texas. He's coming back for next year, too. Back-to-back national champs. Let's go.
All right. So I had him at 3 and 14. As far as fantasy hit, I was with you guys. I'm like, how do you even pick someone? And I went, wait a minute. They have a kicker. They're gonna put points on the board. You have to put points on the board. And so as far as the fantasy hit, just draft the New Orleans kicker. He's gonna kick a lot of field goals. Um, and as far as a fantasy bust, I literally said, how do you single out just one guy? Because nobody on this team, in my opinion, is going to be someone that I want on my roster. Um, and so with that said, I went, okay, who's the most likely to end up on a roster that doesn't deserve to be there? Chris Olave, I think even if he gets injured throughout the year, he's going to be their number one. He's going to put some numbers up, kind of right in line with what we would expect. Alvin Kamara is going to be my bust. His name alone is going to get him drafted. And his numbers have been declining. This team will not be in games enough to run the football. And he is not the same receiver out of the backfield he was 2-3 years ago. So if you need a bust, there you go, Alvin Kamara. I really expect this team to have the number one overall pick as we go into next season.
So one thing I also wanted to say about the Saints, I have to credit, of course, good one of the better streamers on YouTube. Streamers, what have you. The best fan I've seen in a long time. With Tom Grassi. During one of his videos, he did mention, "Hey, Saints fans, are you okay? Are you going to be okay this next year? If you need someone to talk to, I'm here. Hey, Saints fans, we're here. We're here too for you. If you need an outlet somewhere, worst case, you're not going over there. Hey, we're here too."
Yeah. I will say this too. I'm with Mike. I actually think Spencer Rattler starts the season at quarterback. And here's the thing. This team, while we're all in agreement, there's nothing there. This team probably has the biggest upside potential of any team out there because expectations are so low. If Spencer Rattler can look like the quarterback he was in Oklahoma before he got benched for Kyler Murray, he might be the biggest sleeper in the league at quarterback. I don't know how he's going to put numbers up in that offense, but I'm not sold on the idea that there's zero chance of it. I don't think they win a lot of games, but when you're not in football games, you're throwing the football, and usually the beneficiary of that is your quarterback. So we'll see how it plays out. I do expect Tyler Shaw to be starting at quarterback during the last quarter of this season so they can see what they've got there and get him some experience. I'm rooting for Spencer Rattler only because I'm holding a couple of his blue or purple shocks from Donruss Optic and a couple of his rookie cards. I would love to see it work out. And the fact that another OU quarterback could become a starting quarterback in the NFL, that's exactly why I want to see it right there. So, all right. Last team in the division, Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I'll kick us off. I have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers at 11-6, first place in the NFC South. And here's what I've got. Look, they're coming off a solid season. They won in a horrible division. Look for more of the same. Baker Mayfield has been reborn in this offense. I'm excited for Baker because when he came out and just looked awful in Cleveland and eventually found his way to Tampa Bay where they found the ways to use him and found what works for him and built an offense around that. This is what the NFL is all about. You can have a rookie quarterback land in the wrong place in the wrong system with the wrong people and completely fail. Where if they end up in the right situation with the right people, they look like the guy that got drafted. And I think for me, Baker Mayfield, that is the perfect example of this. Um, they've been reborn. The Bucks just seem to keep adding weapons. I really liked the draft pick of Emeka Ibuka. I think he's going to do well there. But more than him, the guy that I'm in love with right now, Bucky Irving. He took over as their starter midway through his rookie campaign. He had solid numbers over the second half of the season. Doesn't really qualify as a sleeper because his average draft position, he's the ninth back off the board. He's being taken mid top round, first round or late second round in most drafts. 12 touchdowns for him is not unrealistic because he stays on the field in the red zone. And I think 1,200 total yards is definitely possible in this weaker division. I really love Bucky Irving as the potential next big running back we'll see in the NFL. As far as a fantasy bust, what?
He tastes so good.
You. Fantasy bust, I'm going with Chris Godwin. Ankle injury has him on the mend this year. And even though Jason Licht is saying that he's exactly where they wanted him to be in his recovery, there's still a chance he misses the start of the season and ends up on the physically unable to perform list. And if he does start the season on the field, expect those first 4 weeks to be like an extended preseason for him where he's trying to get himself back into shape. Everyone remembers the numbers for Chris Godwin over the last couple of years, and there's a reason that they're making him their feature wide receiver. But you've got to be healthy. The ankles have a way of slowing down even the best receivers. Chris Godwin is going to be my fantasy bust on this team. He's just not going to live up to the expectations. Take it away, Mike.
So we actually agree 100% on pretty much everything on this one. I also have Bucky Irving as my hit. It's my best draft pick. I love Bucky Irving. I think he's gonna have a monster year. I also had Chris Godwin as my bust. You don't draft Emeka Ibuka unless you know something's going on with Godwin. I think he's gonna be dealing with an injury for the first, like you said, 4, 5, 6 weeks. And even if he gets on the field, is he going to be the third option, fourth option at that point? Um, I have the Bucks actually at 10-7, coming in second place in this division. I think it comes down to them or the Falcons is going to win this division. I probably might have been a little biased and went with the Falcons because I have a lot of money on the Falcons in certain parlays that I need them to win their freaking division finally. They had better odds. I will say one thing that I don't think anyone, you especially, aren't going to expect me to say. I hate Baker Mayfield. However, from a fantasy perspective, in that offense, he's going to throw for 4,000 yards. He's going to throw for 30-plus touchdowns. I hate it. I freaking despise Baker Mayfield with every ounce of my being. I hate the guy. But from a fantasy perspective, it's hard to say he's not going to have a good year in Tampa Bay.
I agree. How about you, Raven?
Well, with Tampa Bay, I definitely agree with you as far as a record 11-6. One thing a lot of people don't remember, there is a new OC in town, new OC in charge of the offense there. However, Baker Mayfield, I give him a ton of credit. During this offseason, instead of him just going and trying to learn a brand new offense, He wound up going in this offseason and worked with that offensive coordinator, kind of tweak his offensive standpoint to kind of better fit Mayfield's play style and to be able to ensure that this team is successful next year.
That's because Baker's not smart enough to learn an offense. So,
so of course, new offensive talent added in the offseason with Emeka Egbuka. He's going to be huge in this offense next year. You got a ton of talent in that wide receiver crew. Emeka Egbuka is probably going to be one of the more successful wide receivers this next year as far as out of the rookie camps. Of course, alongside Ted McMillan. You've of course got new blood on the defensive side of the ball as well with Benjamin Morrison, Jacob Parrish, as well as that new addition of Hassan Reddick. Even though he had a rough season last year, he's hoping to turn things around after that rough season last year as far as his sack numbers, tackles, whole 9 yards. But yes, 11-6 for the Buccaneers. As far as my good fantasy hit, I think we're all in agreement with Bucky Irvin, one of the better running backs in the league. He's gonna be a huge player next year for on the Buccaneers offense. One of the big fantasy busts I have, because of course not a lot of people are going to be looking at him, Sterling Shepard. That's even if he makes the team too. But Sterling Shepard's my bust. So we're on to the final one, the more fun one we were sitting here talking about earlier. Ooh, let's go.
Yep.
Where do we
Look
start?
how quickly he came back on cam. He's like, hold on, I'm ready.
Sorry, I had a crying kid.
Yeah. All right. Should we save that team for last? I feel like we should. Or do we tackle it first? No? Tackle it first? All right. Well, if we're going to tackle it first, guys, for those of you who are new to the show, who haven't seen Mike on before, Mike is your ultimate Dallas fan until he has to burn his jerseys this year. And yep, there we go. Burn them all, man. Burn them all. He hasn't burned them yet, but it's coming. He is the ultimate Dallas fan. We are going to let Mike kick us off. Mike, tell us about your cow pukes.
All right, I tried to be as unbiased as I could. I really tried to not be the typical Cowboy fan and say this is our year and that we're going to win the Super Bowl and blah, 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 right? Like, I'm not trying to be the typical Cowboy fan here. I do have the Cowboys at 10-7.
Come on.
10-7.
I like that you said you tried because you failed miserably, sir.
Here's the thing with the Cowboys is the first half of their season, they're going to get most of their wins. The last half of their season is going to be that's going to be the test. So I think they're going to get the momentum as long as, it's like any team, right? If Dak stays healthy, if your quarterback stays healthy, you could say what you want. Dak Prescott is a top 5 fantasy quarterback when he's healthy. No one puts up bigger numbers. Dallas throws 68% of the time. They don't run the ball because they have no freaking running back. Which will bring me to my fantasy, my hit. There's a couple. CD. I don't like him because he went to OU, but dude's going to put up huge numbers as long as Dak Prescott's there. He put up huge numbers without Dak. So he's going to be, I think CD's probably the second best wide receiver fantasy this year from a number standpoint. I would draft Dak. I'd put him as my quarterback because you can get him later in the mid rounds. And he's going to put up QB1 numbers because he's going to throw 35 plus touchdowns. He's going to throw for 4,000 yards as long as he's healthy. My favorite player to draft, though, is Jake Ferguson because you can get him pretty late. And he's just a consistent target, with Pickens there, with CD Lamb there. It's going to free up a little bit more for Jake Ferguson. He's boring. He's slow, but he's kind of like Jason Witten. You either love him or he's just boring. As far as a bust, From a fantasy perspective, I just wouldn't touch a running back. If you were going to touch a running back for Dallas, I would go with the rookie, go with Jadon Blue, just because of his catching ability and potential for him to get enough touches. But from a fantasy, I don't draft any Cowboys because that you're just asking for problems in my life if that happens. So, um, but Dak Prescott, CD Lamb, Jake Ferguson, all gonna have big ears. And I can't see how you guys don't see this team as a 10-win team, 10-7 team. So,
All right.
Okay.
All right. So
Okay.
I have to go second here because Mike and I have this connection that as much as he loves this team, I despise this team. And for those who don't know me, in case you can't tell up here on the wall, I am a Bronco fan. I am a secondary Viking fan. I grew up between the two towns. So in all my formative years, it was Denver and it was Minnesota. That was it. I still cry over the 98 Super Bowl because those were my years. But the year that we moved to Denver in 1977, the Broncos went to the Super Bowl for the very first time, and this stupid team with these stupid stars dismantled my team. And so for the rest of my life, they will forever be known as the Dallas Cowpukes because Cowgirls was taken. That was too easy. They will forever be the Dallas Cowpukes who will always have to watch their last Super Bowl appearance on VHS. Do they even make those anymore? I don't even know. So let's get to the record. Dallas will finish at 7-10, and it's hard for me to say 7.
Oh
it is so hard for me to say 7.
Oh my God.
Yep,
Oh,
this
he's
is
gonna
why.
hate
This
me.
is why him and I. This is why him and I. All right. I'm in agreement with.
Hold on.
Thing.
Raven, we're gonna do this different. Raven, what do you have them at?
So I had a lot to consider. First and foremost, some things to consider with the Cowboys. Brand new head coach coming in after parting ways with Mike McCarthy. And on top of everything, they have one of the tougher schedules from weeks 12 to 17. Majority of the teams that they're playing against made the playoffs last year. Prescott's coming off of his injury. And the huge concern right now is that defense. With Micah Parsons, we're demanding a trade out of Dallas.
He ain't going nowhere.
If he's traded, Cowboys defense is gonna regress even further than where it's at right now. Of course, as everyone's well aware, George Pickens, new addition out in Dallas, finally giving the Cowboys a defined number 2. And one thing to remember from last year, the Cowboys defense was rated number 28 in the NFL. So if you lose Micah Parsons, gets traded away at the trade deadline, I'm thinking they're going to be number 32 as far as defense. Cowboys 5-12. Yeah.
All right, who's your fantasy hit and your fantasy bust?
So my fantasy hit, I did agree. CD Lamb, your number 1 receiver. He's going to be targeted the most on that offense. CD Lamb almost always going to be the fantasy hit. My fantasy bust, like I mentioned prior, number 28 defense last year. Didn't really do a whole lot in the offseason to bring in more defensive talent. Honestly, their defense is going to be the absolute worst.
All right. So, back to me. I was nice. I gave you 7 wins.
We're gonna game. I'm gonna go game by game with you in a second. So don't just keep going.
Good
right.
Lord.
So here's what I had to say about Dallas. It was, here we go again. New coaching, new systems, same old Jerry Jones. So few changes to a roster that couldn't even stay on the field. Couldn't win with a proven coach, and I say proven when it comes to Mike McCarthy because, at least he's done something, which is more than, Dallas can say. And we're still seeing the infighting over money. Like, what's different here? What's truly different? They added a running back, and being a Bronco fan, I loved Javonte Williams the first year. I loved him the first half of his second year when he was running people over. But since his injury, middle of his second season, he is not the same back. He was a feature back in Denver on the field for more than 500 snaps, and yet his numbers didn't reflect it. So one of your biggest additions is a guy who couldn't be the feature guy in a Sean Payton system. Explain that to me. Their other big addition, George Pickens. Which George Pickens are you getting? Like, are we getting the guy that looked like he might be a legit wide receiver one in Pittsburgh that first season? Are we getting the guy who is an absolute freaking head case? What are we getting? You don't know.
Head case.
I think you're getting the head case, but we will find out. Fantasy hit. Painful to say. I hate giving this guy any credit at all. I did put Dak on there. I think Dak stands to rebound this year, coming off the injury if he is healthy. And I have no reason to doubt the fact that after the amount of time he's had to rehab that he is healthy. This team might have to throw the football 50 times a game. Javonte Williams was added. He's not the back to make people forget names like Dorsett or Smith or even Ezekiel Elliott. The receiving core has CeeDee Lamb and George Pickens and Jake Ferguson. I really think Brian Schottenheimer is going to lean on Dak's return as the way to win. In addition, and Raven nailed it, 28th ranked defense last year. Nothing really changed on that defense. Nothing changed. I don't expect them to stop people from scoring, so you're going to have to throw the ball to win. And so I really think Dak has as much upside as any player on this team. There you go. I said it. Take it as a win there, Mr. Height. Fantasy bust. George Pickens. And I know it's hard to say George Pickens because there may not be a lot of hype surrounding this pick. But his average draft position, he's being taken as a mid wide receiver 3, late 5th round, early 6th round at the worst in most drafts. CeeDee Lamb is going to get a lot of the focus. CeeDee Lamb always gets a lot of the focus, even from opposing defenses, and CeeDee Lamb puts the numbers up. By the way, that pick still hurts. Jerry Jeudy over CeeDee Lamb. I still remember sitting in that draft room with you, Mike, going, oh, but I think I wanted CeeDee, but Jerry Jeudy's okay.
Didn't work out too well.
Yeah, and just a quick caveat: Jerry Jeudy looks great in Cleveland. It's just a case of being in that wrong system, and I mentioned it with Baker being in the wrong system with the wrong expectation. I think Jerry Jeudy is a better receiver than he was in Denver. So kudos to him. Go get him, Jerry. I just don't think George Pickens is going to put up numbers that justify being a wide receiver 2 or even a wide receiver 3. I think he's going to be a spot starter in terms of fantasy, depending on matchup. One thing I agree on, the Pukes will get their wins in the early part of this season. The second half of this season, it's going to be everything. I don't think they're going to get as many early wins as you think they're going to get, which is why I had them at 7 and 10. And I know you want to go pick by pick on this.
We're good.
What's that?
So that I just don't. 5 is nuts to me. But
yeah,
I mean, we play the Giants twice. We play the Bears. We play the Jets. We play the Panthers.
Yeah, for me, 5 is too low. 7,
Bears are a new team.
7 is kind of where I had them. All right, so you want to do this? You really want to do this? Raven, you don't mind if we go pick by pick on these, do you?
That is absolutely fine. Week by week. That is absolutely fine.
Okay. Mike, I'm going to let you go first on week 1, and then we'll alternate.
Loss.
Same here. Loss. Eagles at Philly, coming off the Super Bowl. Eagles win. Week 2, win against the Giants at home.
Yeah.
Okay. Win. Week 3.
Win.
Okay. I had a loss here.
Caleb Williams is not leaving us.
Hold on. Here's the thing. I think given 2 weeks to plus the preseason to adapt to Ben Johnson's offense, I think the Bears steal one here. I think it'll be a close game, but I've got the Bears.
Good.
Week
I got
4.
two. It's
Okay,
the Packers coming to Dallas, so we're gonna lose.
all right, and I've got it. That's we're on the same page, 2-2, just different picks as far as which team. All right,
Mm-hmm.
week 5. This is you at the Jets.
Win.
Win. We're at 3-2. Week 6, at the Panthers.
Win.
I have a loss. Dallas plays down to their opponents every so often, and this is a really great opportunity to have a game stolen from them. You're going on the road against a very good defense. I really think the Panthers steal one right here. So right now, I've got them at 3-3. You have them at 4-2. Week
Yep.
7.
We always split
Commander.
with the Commanders, so I'm gonna give us a win at home and loss there.
All right. I had the Commanders stealing one here. I have them at 3-4 going into week 8 in Denver.
I have a loss.
Okay, we agree. At least you've got a little bit of reality in your head.
Yep.
So I've got them at 3-5. You've got them at 4-4?
5-3 after the Bronco game.
All right. So 5-3, 3-5. That's where two of our 3 difference right here. All right, at home against the Cardinals. What do you got?
Win.
Okay, so I'm at 4-5. You're at 6-3. At the Raiders.
Win.
Okay, so I'm at 5-5. You're at 7-3. And now we come to the stretch. Home versus the Eagles.
Loss.
We agree. Home versus the Chiefs.
Win.
Loss. Come on.
It's Thanksgiving.
It is Thanksgiving, and Patrick Mahomes is going to light you guys up. Oh, my
We don't
word.
lose on Thanksgiving. That's the only reason I have it. Wait.
Okay. Lions.
I agree with that pick.
Crazy.
The Lions, I have
Lions.
a loss. I think they get their
All right.
revenge.
Yep, me too. At home against the Vikings.
Win.
I gave them the win.
That's 9 for me.
Home against the Chargers.
I gave them a loss.
Give them a loss. At Washington.
I gave them a loss.
I gave them the win on the road. And then
I get
at the Giants.
Giants were my 10th win.
All right. So, and the Giants were my 7th win for them. So we differ a little bit on some of the individual games that I feel like could be stolen. You think somehow they're going to beat Patrick Mahomes.
I only think that because it's Thanksgiving, sir.
I get it. So
You always win on Thanksgiving.
yeah, so here's the thing. I love watching them lose as much as you love watching them win. I don't think the expectation is all that far off. I think they'll be competitive in games, but first year system, first year head coach, and learning the new system with no real running back on that roster, I don't see them winning more than 7, maybe 8. Everyone say hi. This is my daughter. She's starting to learn to love football, right?
Right.
Who's our favorite team?
Okay.
That's my girl. All right. Out you go, girl. All right. Let's see. New York Giants. Raven, why don't you kick us off?
Well, in New York, they're definitely having some interesting looks. New quarterback additions that came in with Jackson Dart. The number one question I have is who is the defined starter? Who's going to be your starting quarterback that very first week? It's a toss up at this point, but I definitely have Dart winning the quarterback job out there. And with a rookie quarterback, you could have a great quarterback or a horrible one. And I know you guys are probably going to jump down me because, of course, I'm being an ASU fan. I'm super, super high on this young man, Cam Scatbo. He's going to be the Saquon Barkley 2.0. He's going to be the running back that is going to make or break this offense. Again, one question I still have: when's Jackson Dart gonna have his start? Again, I believe it's going to be at the beginning of the year, but at the same time, you also have other proven quarterbacks there. Their biggest addition, because he fell into their laps, Abdul Carter. He was my number one consensus number one overall pick. Fell into their laps, got super lucky. They had a lot of losses in the offseason with Aziz Ojulari and Jason Pinnock. And they as well have one of the most difficult schedules. That being said, I have them coming down to a 6-11 record. My go-to fantasy pick, and I know I mentioned his name once more, but you will remember this man's name, Cam Scatbo. As far as my bad fantasy pick, Russell Wilson, he's not gonna stay this year. He's gonna get cut, and he's gonna get cut going into the season.
That's a bold prediction. That's a very bold prediction, sir. I will start. I'm on my show. All right, you got to be quiet while I say this part, okay? For me, let me just start by saying Brian Dable will not survive beyond week 8. Brian Dable will be gone by week 8.
See,
What?
you got me up some water, Mommy.
Not right now. Where's mommy?
You talking? Until. Jeez.
Give me a minute, Mike. Why don't you give us your predictions, and then I'll be right back to give mine.
No problem. I love talking about the crappy Giants. We'll start with the fantasy perspective. So I literally wrote down, do not draft a single New York Giant player unless it's Malik Neighbors. That's pretty much the only talent I see on that offensive side of the ball. I agree with Daryl, and I think Jackson Dart will be the starter. I agree. I think it's going to be later. I think they're going to go with Russell Wilson. I think if I'm Brian Dable and my job's on the line, I'm going to go with the guy who's been there before, Russell Wilson, and gives me the best chance. Once Dable gets fired after week 8 or 9 or 10 or something like that, Jackson Dart will become the starter, and they're going to be down in every single game. I have them at 4 wins. I have them 4-13. So I do think Malik Neighbors is going to get a lot of looks. I think he is a stud wide receiver. I do agree with Daryl, though. I think this defense is actually their defensive line. Their front 7 is very, very, very good. Dexter Lawrence, Brian Burns, Abdul Carter. I agree. I think he was the best player in the draft, and he slid to them. So I do like their front 7. Their secondary is atrocious. It's horrible. But everything in football comes down to your quarterback, realistically. And Russell Wilson is not Russell Wilson from the Seattle Seahawks 10 years ago. So I just don't see how this team's going to compete in the NFC East. I have them in last place, 4-13. Yeah.
All right. So I'm with you. Let's back up. Starting quarterback will be Russell Wilson. And I'm exactly what you said. If my job is on the line, and I know based off of the owner's comments the end of last season that I'm on a really short leash and I better start winning immediately, I'm going to go with the proven guy. I think Jackson Dart is the better quarterback at this point. And the one thing that impresses me about Jackson Dart, I've watched a lot of videos, pre-draft videos, post-draft videos, the way that he carries himself, the professionalism, and the desire that you just see in this kid. I think Jackson Dart is going to be a very, very good quarterback in this league. I personally think he has the potential to be better than Cam Ward, because he went somewhere where he can succeed. Tennessee has so few weapons. I don't expect much out of Cam Ward. We'll talk about them next week, I'm sure. I really think Jackson Dart is going to be a great NFL quarterback. That said, the real problem and the reason that I said that Brian Dable will not make it out of the first half of this season is their schedule. Just to review, they go Commanders, Cowboys, Chiefs, Chargers. They get a win at the Saints. Eagles, Broncos, Eagles, Niners. There's your first 9 games, guys. They could be 1-7, 1-8 really, really easily. And with the fact we're on a short leash, Brian Dable, you can't help but feel for a guy who just doesn't have the talent on that team anymore. I want to believe that they can win some games. I have them at 5-12. I really think Jackson Dart gets the start somewhere around midseason, and this will be the last season we see Russell Wilson. As far as a fantasy hit, Malik Neighbors. I mean, who else on this team is going to catch the ball? Is going to get the shots down the field? I think he has he stands to have the most to gain amongst all of their offensive options. I love that you brought up Cam Skadbo. I'm an ASU fan too. I love what he did last year. The NFL's different. The NFL's faster, bigger, stronger. He's already injured this preseason. So he's already nursing an injury. He's a little bit undersized. And his wrecking ball mentality worked great for Javonte Williams for the first year. But he won't last. I do think there will be some potential late season looks for him. And we'll be looking at him as next year's feature back in this offense. So if you're holding on to hope for Cam, hope for the second half. As far as a fantasy bust goes, it's hard to pick on any single giant because there's just not a lot of fantasy expectation for this team beyond Malik Neighbors. So I'll just say Russell Wilson. Even he's being drafted 31st overall behind Shedeur Sanders. Nobody expects anything from this team, and probably for good reason. That offense just does not have the weapons to compete this year. 5-12 at best. That's my pick. All right. That brings us to Philly. Philly. I wish Mike's cam wasn't frozen right now because I'd love to see his face as I start talking about this.
Is it unfrozen?
Yeah, it's frozen. Stop your cam and restart it. I want to see your face as I talk about this. Because nothing is more entertaining watching him have to wince as we talk about the team that will win their division. So, start with the record. 13-4, NFC East winner. Guys, these guys are the odds-on favorite. Odds-on favorite to win this division and potentially be the NFC champions again. And there's a reason for that. Even with the losses that they suffered on the defensive side of the ball, all they did is they went out and restocked. I mean, they do it every year. And I don't understand how or why they get to do this. It's not even fair. They just keep finding talent in the draft. And that's a shout out to their GM. It does not matter who they lose. They just seem to replace. Jalen Hurts and Saquon Barkley will be the key to the offense. And this is a division where they could, not will, but could sweep against the division rivals. They could go 6-0 in this division. I actually had them at 5-1 in this division. Look for them to host home field throughout the playoffs. Just reality. For me, fantasy hit-wise, I went with Devontae Smith. The guy had 8 touchdowns in only 13 games last year. And his big play explosiveness, you see it every time he touches the damn ball. Currently being drafted as the top wide receiver 3 option in most drafts, in most 12-team drafts. 27th overall wide receiver being, or 25th overall wide receiver being taken. He's got to get more touches in order to get back to 1,000 yards. But and we'll talk about my bust in a moment. This guy cannot continue the production he had this past year, so I expect him to throw the ball a little bit more. Look for Devontae Smith to increase, get back up over 1,100 yards, and potentially double-digit touchdowns. As far as a fantasy bust goes, I'm going to say Saquon Barkley. He's currently. I know. I see. This is why I love talking about this stuff. That whoa moment when you say a name like that. He's currently being drafted second overall behind Bijan Robinson. Very little likelihood that Barkley can repeat the numbers that he just had. And let me throw a little history out there for you, okay? 2,000-yard backs. Who can name them? Give me one.
CJ2K.
Eric Dickerson.
Okay, Eric Dickerson. Eric Dickerson holds the record. 2,100 yards rushing, right? Any guess what he put up the year after?
13.
Okay. How about Adrian Peterson, my guy right here, AP? Have 2,095 yards, second closest anyone, or 2,096 yards, closest anyone has come to breaking that record. What did he do the following year? 1,200 yards. Terrell Davis, my guy, 2,000 yards. Following year, played 4 games, got injured, was never the same back again. Every 2,000-yard back the following season has suffered at least a 40% decline to their numbers and misses games. Saquon Barkley, who already has injury history in the NFL, is going to miss games. He's going to see those numbers dip. Not because of anything his team has done, but it is just the natural progression that comes after a season like this. So if you're drafting a guy second overall, and I tell you that the numbers that he put up last year are going to drop by 40%, how is that not a bust? So for me, Saquon Barkley will be your fantasy bust from the Philadelphia Eagles.
I don't know what you're smoking, but I
Raven.
want some. Honestly, I do. So I definitely understand the concern when it comes to running backs after a huge 2,000-yard season, what have you. But he's still one of those guys I will absolutely draft number 1 overall if I have that number 1 pick. But anyway, going back to the Eagles, they're all obviously looking to repeat. Very few teams have been able to do so. But knowing what they've lost, I agree with you. They've gone out and resupplied. Lost Josh Sweat and Milton Williams, and of course, Darius Slay. But they wound up going out and having a huge addition to their defense on this offseason with their rookie Jahad Campbell. He getting him in the draft the way that he fell to them at the number 32 number 32 pick in the first round. Getting him there was just insane luck. They of course have that new offensive coordinator replacing Kellen Moore. But of course, the only question mark I really have for them is who is going to be able to step up and replace Darius Slay in his production last year. As far as record, I have the Eagles, of course, winning the division, 13-4. My go-to fantasy pick this year will be Jalen Hurts. He's a guy he's going to be the guy that's going to make or break the season. If he can stay consistent, Jalen Hurts going to be one of the better quarterbacks to grab this year. And I actually disagree with you as far as the receiver. My fantasy bust this year for the Eagles is Devonta Smith.
Why? Explain for me, please.
Well, with the Eagles, one thing I was of course considering is their depth at receiver. AJ Brown, your consensus number 1 overall, and more than anything, of course, this is me being dumb, but thinking about fantasy or thinking about preseason numbers as well. Darius Cooper he could break out and become a number 2, number 3 receiver in this offense, and could get a lot of looks this next year when it comes to other wide receiver depth. They have tons of depth. I could see Devonta Smith going into either a number 3, possibly even being buried at number 5 or number 6.
You're high.
Like
Get
I
off the
said, I got
drugs,
the
son.
same stuff you have, so.
All right. I can see him chomping at the bit. Mike, why don't you fix this young man for me?
Oh man. I hate the Eagles. I hate saying
I
anything
know.
nice about them. But they are good, man. I mean, there's really no. They're just freaking good. I have them winning the division. Finally, somebody going back to back in the NFC East. Been 20 plus years since that's happened. Um, I have them at 12-5, so not quite as good as you guys, but they're still going to be very, very, very good. I agree with Raven about. I think Jalen Hurts is. I think Jalen Hurts is top 5 fantasy quarterback simply because all the damn touchdowns that he gets from this that should be cheating push.
Oh,
Oh,
great.
come on.
But with that being said, I think this whole division, honestly, I think there's 3 of the top 5 fantasy quarterbacks in that division within Daniels, Dak, and Jalen Hurts. I think fantasy wise, it'll be those 3 will finish in the top 5. I actually agree 100% with Armand when it comes to fantasy. I have almost word for word what you said about Saquon Barkley. I don't know if I call him a bust, but he's not going to repeat last year. I think if you draft him as the number 1 or number 2 running back, I think you're going to get like the 6th or 7th or 8th best running back numbers. I don't know if I say that's a bust, but you're not going to get what you drafted. And then Devontae Smith is that. I mean, I have big, bold capital letters here on my notes. Devontae Smith is going to have a massive year. AJ Brown has got all the attention. Dallas Goedert is a great tight end, but Devontae Smith, I mean, the dude put up 8 touchdowns in 12 games last year, 13 games last year. If he stays healthy, I love Devontae Smith. He can take the top off of. I mean, he's fast. I love Devontae Smith. So I think you can get him as a wide receiver 2 in like the 4th or 5th round, and you're going to get wide receiver 1 numbers. So yeah, I think we're all on the line with the Eagles. I mean, I don't think they're the NFC representative in the Super Bowl. I'm sure we'll get to that at some point. But that is not who I have going to the Super Bowl for the NFC. And I don't have the Cowboys either, so don't think I do.
He has the
Yeah,
Packers.
no, I would hope not. Jesus. All right. That brings us down to the final team. And before we do, hey guys, 12:30 today. You want to take a shot at some cards? We got a live break going on Whatnot. If you need a link, let me know. Raven, let him know. He can send you over a referral code, get you $10 to spend for free. So I've got 2025 Score and 2024 Select. Two of the top products out there right now. Raven, didn't you just get a rookie? Score rookie out of that? Who did you pull yesterday?
Rookies, actually. Yesterday, on something that you also brought up with this card that I pulled, this Travis Hunter card, and I just also realized this too. This is his cornerback card, not his receiver card. His cornerback card.
That is sick.
One thing, of course, that you and I saw about this that was kind of concerning. There's no little rookie badge on here, so not sure if that's like some sort of error on the card. But on top of it as well, I wound up finding in there this young man right here, the Cleveland Browns future starting quarterback with Shedeur Sanders as well. Now something else.
Aren't we going to be talking about that team next week?
No. We agreed week 3, Dad.
So
that's
right.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about the 4-win Browns in week 3.
4-win Browns.
5.
5.
We're going to talk about the AFC North and AFC West the final week. So for next week, before we get into the final team, we still have on the NFC side the NFC North. We're going to talk about the AFC South and the AFC East next week. So a lot of fun quarterbacks to talk about next week.
Oh, definitely.
A lot of fun quarterbacks. Okay. Jumping into our final team, the Washington Commanders, Redskins,
Redacted.
Yep. Mike, you're going to be up first on this one. I got to put a Band-Aid on a little girl. Tell us what you think.
Washington's an interesting team. I don't know how to judge them. And this is just going to be me going out. You can call it a gut feeling. I think Jaden Daniels regresses a little bit in his sophomore year. I still think this team's going to be a solid team. I have them at 9-8, 10-7, somewhere in there. I keep going back and forth. With McLaurin wanting out, I just don't. I don't see. I think Debo's a bust. I'll just say that. I will say that my fantasy bust is Debo. I think people are reaching for him. Even in San Francisco, he was never a great fantasy player. Probably the only player I would take, even though I said I think he'll regress a little bit, is Jaden Daniels. If I can get him in the 5th round, or early 5th round, maybe I'd take him as my quarterback because of his running ability. But Washington, I don't know. Maybe you guys can help me understand them. They're just a weird team. 2 years ago, they were 4-win team, 3-win team, 4-win team. And they didn't really do a lot, except they got Jaden Daniels. And I'm trying to believe in the guy, but I've seen a lot of second-year quarterbacks take C.J. Stroud comes to mind. He was not the same C.J. Stroud as he was in his rookie year. So I got him at 9-8, possibly 10-7, competing there with the Cowboys for the second place. But I don't know. What do you got, Raven?
Oh, okay. So as far as the commies, definitely had the concern with Scary Terry requesting that trade. It could have open up a huge hole in their wide receiver room. He's clear-cut number 2 receiver there, right behind. Possibly even number 1. They're most likely going to put Debo at number 1. Knowing their offense, knowing their schemes, you could see Debo being number 1 receiver. They also brought in Amari Cooper to potentially take over Terry McLaurin's position if they decide to go ahead and trade him. Huge question: will Debo be able to adapt his game to reflect his play from his time in San Francisco? As well, I agree with you with Jaden Daniels with the potential regression. The real question is, can he replicate his play from a year prior? They have a huge addition with a couple of huge additions with Laramie Tunsil, Josh Connerly Jr., Debo Samuel. They also got a couple of great additions on defense as well. Javon Kinlaw, Jonathan Jones, Will Harris. They did lose Dante Fowler Jr., which could have some repercussions on that defense. And I did look at the MVP voting. Daniels currently holds the 5th best odds when it comes to MVP voting. Overall record I have for Washington, if the numbers can be replicated from a year ago, 11-6, taking the number 2 spot in the division. If not, 9-8. As far as the fantasy goes, I 100% agree. Jaden Daniels would be my guy to go to as far as the pick. But as far as bad fantasy picks, one of the older guys on the team, Zach Ertz, just not even wanting to touch him with a 5-foot pole.
Gotcha. All right. Well, one of the things that Mike mentioned is trying to make sense of who they are. You mentioned just 2 years ago, we're looking at a 4-win team. And for those who don't remember, that was under Ron Rivera. Ron Rivera, one of the great defensive players of his time, also coached Carolina to a Super Bowl. Um, couldn't seem to get the same thing out of the Redskins slash Commanders, uh, and that led to his firing. What's changed? Dan Quinn. Dan Quinn is there now. I love Dan Quinn as a coach. I like the mentality he brings, even if he did give up, a 28-3 lead in a Super Bowl. I'm pretty sure we all remember that. But more importantly, for this offense, Cliff Kingsbury as an offensive coordinator, I may not like Cliff as a head coach, but as an offensive mind in this game, there's a reason that Jaden Daniels succeeded last year. And a lot of it has to do with the style of offense that Cliff Kingsbury runs. There's a reason Kyler Murray was really good under Cliff Kingsbury, why he regressed just a little bit last year. Cliff Kingsbury is a quarterback whisperer, for lack of a better way of putting it. What I see is a change in leadership on that team and just a change in demeanor. I have them coming in at 9-8 this year. And the notes that I had, they're coming off a strong season. They spent money to build around Jaden Daniels. And whenever you see that commitment from a team, they know their time is now. They know that waiting and not putting players around him would have been a mistake. He showed they belong. And the idea that they've added Deebo Samuel, they added KJ Osborne, who, by the way, I love that guy. He's he's one of those underrated guys nobody ever thinks about, and all of a sudden he's got 6 touchdowns. You're like, where'd he come from? They're giving Michael Gallup a chance to resurrect his career. There are a lot of new weapons on offense and weapons that fit very well within Kingsbury's system. For me, fantasy hit, we all said Daniels, but let me point something out, guys. He was solid last year. He had 25 touchdowns last year against only 9 interceptions. He ran for 800 yards? His rushing stats are part of what makes him so valuable as a fantasy quarterback. He's currently being taken 3rd overall amongst quarterbacks. So everyone is seeing something there, and myself included. Given the chance, I would take him amongst my top 3 or 4. I actually expect his numbers to increase this year. I think he's going to top 35 overall TDs. I think he's going to top 3,500 passing yards. I think he gets better with the weapons they've given him. And as far as a fantasy bust goes, as we've seen in so many backfields these days, there's no clear-cut favorite. So if I've got to choose a bust, I'm going to choose Austin Eckler. We're 2-3 years removed from him being the guy in San Diego, and now he's in a backfield where he's got to share carries. There's not a whole lot of expectation out of Eckler. If you look at fantasy drafts and average draft position, nobody is really expecting a lot out of this guy, but sometimes all it takes is a name. If Daniels suffers any type of sophomore slump, this schedule that's almost all playoff caliber teams, that could be this team's Achilles heel. This could be the reason you see him regress back beyond the 9 wins. I don't think that they're quite there yet. I think they're a year away from taking the title away from the Eagles in this division. But I love the upside. So as of right now, Washington 9-8. There's my pick for Washington.
I agree with you on Cliff. People forget that he was Mahomes' college coach too, and he turned a 2-star Patrick Mahomes into, whatever we see now. So,
all right, Raven, why don't you wrap us up? Tell us about next week.
All right, so as was prior mentioned, next week we are going to crack into the final team in the NFC. Well, the final division in the NFC North. We'll go ahead and crack into the first 2 divisions in the AFC with the AFC East and the AFC South. And the following week, which is the last week of the preseason, going to be cranking into the regular season. we're gonna finish off with the fun with the two AFC divisions that have the most upside with the AFC North. The team, the division that's going to wind up representing the AFC in the Super Bowl this next year.
Bengals.
Bengals are taking it this year, and the Denver Donkeys, the Denver Donkeys.
Say Broncos. Get it right.
So yeah, we'll finish that out, and then we'll come in each week, see how games go each week, and have a lot of fun roasting different teams and making fun of different players as the season goes along. Can't wait for the regular season. Can't wait for the playoffs. This is going to be a fun year of football, everybody, and I hope to see every single one of you along for the entire season, so we can sit along, talk to each other. And of course, not along the way, we'll be talking about college football as well. We are cranking into the most active part of the year with both the NFL, college football going along all at the same time, and I can't wait.
Major League Baseball playoffs, NBA gets started soon. I want to thank our guest host, Mike. It's always good having you on the show, man.
Anytime. As long as it's not on a
Manning,
Saturday during Texas football games.
Yep. So,
All right.
all right, you guys. We'll see you all next week.
Alrighty. Well, I appreciate everybody who came out and watched. I, of course, want to give a special thank you over to Sean for keeping an eye on chat and everything, making sure all the audio was good comparatively to last week. That debacle, of course, when I come on very end of the show, apologize about last week with not being able to have the audio correct. But I appreciate everybody who came out and watched this week. Again, like mentioned, next week, NFC North, AFC East, and AFC South. Hope to see every single one of you back here next week to enjoy the content, enjoy our thoughts, and enjoy the things we talk about. So see you next time, everybody. Dude.